Dreams are connected to the unconscious. There's no such thing that we don't dream. Every person dreams, really. And they're connected to the sacred, to the feminine, and that principle is connected to the earth element, to nature. And it's been revered, you know, through the centuries in many, many different cultures. I'd like to quote something from Carl Jung, who was a student of Freud's, and he said this about dreams. He said, "I believe that the experience of dreaming is the clearest proof we have that the unconscious exists. The inner life of an individual unfolds through dreams, and those who carefully observe their dreams may gain access to dimensions of their natures that would otherwise remain impenetrable."
Sometimes one of my better dreams was when I could fly, but it wasn't a kind of Superman flying where I had a cape, but just I could just lift off the ground and just go into the sky and go over the school and pretty much just take myself anywhere I wanted and see the world from a bird's eye view. And that was a really good dream. You just felt effortless and you felt really free and like you could do anything. That was one of the only better dreams that I usually had when I was a kid, but it was a really nice, pleasant dream of flying over the world.
Being chased, I sometimes think about, even if you can't see who's chasing you, sometimes, and you know, there's no perfect image of who that person's chasing, but it's a feeling. Then you go back to what is happening inside you. What are you chasing? What are you feeling chased by? What are you not coming to terms with that is inner, but not necessarily outer? But the feeling is there, you know, that feeling of feeling paranoid that someone's going to get you, or you know, that is your own going to get you. That is something that you're perhaps not addressing, perhaps not looking at.
Sometimes there was these chase sequences in my dreams where I was trying to get away from someone, but I just couldn't move my feet. As much as I tried, I just couldn't lift my feet off, and if I did, it was so slow, it was in ultra slow motion that I never got anywhere. Similarly with that, I had these dreams where I couldn't scream. If something was happening, I opened my mouth to scream and nothing came out of my voice, so I couldn't alert anyone to what was happening. So it was, again, this feeling of helplessness and not being able to get away from the bad situation.
Another common theme is falling and also the fear of heights. So people can have dreams about their fear of falling, you know, in a high place, usually in mountains, or having a walk around some treacherous path. But they actually don't ever fall, which I think is really interesting. And so the beginning of a dream and the end of a dream is really important, how it begins and how it ends. And so with the fear of falling and frightening of high places, the depth going down into the unconscious is also part of that, I feel. I think it's very much connected with getting more of ourselves in the inner world, and also not having things to be so solid. So that whole anxiety feeling that can come up from the fear of heights can also be more of an anxiety feeling of actually not being able to notice that we are impermanent, that things change all the time, and they hold on to it and they make it so solid that falling can be actually a good thing, where we begin to start feeling like there's movement, change occurring. So some dreams can actually have a theme of illness or dying, and they can come about in very different ways at different times in people's lives. Not necessarily when they're at the end of their life, but more about something in their life dying. So even though the object may look like a person dying, it doesn't actually mean the death of someone, but can mean something finishing and then something being born again. So we're actually looking at death and rebirth as a cycle. It's a cycle that happens in everyone's life. It happens every day. Sometimes it can happen every hour of someone's life, because there are always many deaths and rebirths in our life. And so even though a dream may depict a death, it isn't a death as we know it.
When I was younger, particularly during high school and mostly during primary school, I used to have a dream that I woke up in the morning and then I got to school and I had no shoes. And I thought that was just the most embarrassing thing ever, to just have no shoes, no socks. And it used to scare me, and it was so real that I actually thought that I was at school with no shoes on, and then I'd wake up and thank goodness it wasn't true. And so I made sure I put my shoes and socks on in the morning. During the end of my schooling, during the HSC particularly, I used to have these dreams where I had a test on and I got there that morning for school and they're like, oh, you have a test on today, some big test that meant a lot. And I just didn't know, I hadn't studied for it. At that time I had a lot of stress on me because I wanted to perform really well to get a good mark. And so the idea that I could go into an exam completely unprepared was absolutely horrific. And so I used to have these feelings that, oh my goodness, is there a test on the next day and I haven't studied for it, so it kind of scared me.